Okay, breaking news. Alright, we have breaking news. They are making some costumes.
To do this because you could see how much there's so much more that goes into it than just a regular movie. You feel that the movie's really a creation. It's a lot of artists coming together and working on it. It's not just,
They are creating an eventing.
It was extraordinary to stand in front of her with all my wardrobe on and stuff. Because I was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it was quite a moment for a young man.
There's still much to learn, my young brothers. The look of the costumes like taps into all these various cultures that we all subliminally recognize.
Alright. They are writing some costumes.
Outlandish, especially for the Queen. We looked all over, from Mongolia to Tibet and just everywhere to find inspiration for the costumes. This is where we're
They're gonna make some writing for the costumes for Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace.
Avoid fashion in the other movies. I mean, Princess Leia, very, very simple. Just completely simple. No design, no fashion, no nothing. This time we're working very good fashion statement.
When I first started in the film, we were going to have 3 costumes for the Queen. And as time went on, George decided that every time we saw the Queen that she was going to have a different costume.
Somebody of that stature would automatically be changing her costumes to fit the occasion. She travels, she goes to the Senate, she has sort of official functions and non-official functions, and each one of those demands a different type of costume.
Ian McKay did a lot of the drawing, and various other people in the conceptual art department.
They're writing.
Showed them to George at the art department meetings, and then.
It looks like a Halloween costume.
Doesn't like that one.
Suggestions for some of the new costumes.
If you could make that line more...
You basically take the screenplay and the written word, if you get to read it, or a verbal description from the director, if you don't, and imagine it.
Has a little loop on the side of her trousers to the gun belt to be held down there.
It's one thing to be able to draw something on a piece of paper and another thing to actually make it three-dimensional and work. But Tricia could do that. She had to actually deal with it and make it work in the real world. So there was a lot of redesigning that had to go on. A lot of working with different types of fabrics, different types of materials.
These are different types of fabrics.
And make it all fit together.
Yeah.
I went to London and discovered what a real costume designer does, which is take 20 different fabrics. And next thing you know, there they all are, and they're pinned up, and it's a sheet of black just like you drew, but it's 10 different pieces of material.
This is the part of the Queen Travel 1 costume.
These are costumes.
So you start with a sheet of almost clear, it's like a cellophane. You do your design on it, and when you finish that, you stick it in water, and the clear fabric disappears, leaving the lace. So this fabric took someone probably a month to make, working at continuing.
They are walking to the around the Naboo.
Trimming and fabrics from various parts of the world. This, I think, probably was about 1910. But it was quite difficult to tell just because it was a lace piece with sort of odd bits. Some of the motifs weren't complete, so we had some fantastic sort of embroiderers here who managed to beat it all back and add in the beads to make it look like one complete piece.
Tricia was very good at bringing in antique cloths, various kinds of weights of cloth that would move different ways when they were layered on top of each other. Things that I hadn't had a lot of experience with, and so I learned a great deal from Tricia.
This was quite a time-consuming fabric to create because all the stones were gathered sort of on a beach. We did have problems with this in Tunisia because with the heat, the rubber sort of expanded slightly and we had stones popping out all over the place and spent quite a lot of time having to put them back in again. I thought that colour was meant to be slightly
Yeah.
That's quite flexible, isn't it? That's the smallest piece of knitting on it.
These are creating a male costume.
It's very easy in a movie to want to make everybody be the same, because then you can just replicate a particular costume.
We've done 2 versions of this armour and different types of quilting.
To do individual costumes and do them in the thousands is a very, very difficult task. But I did want the military to have several different kinds of outfits. That the officers were different than the enlisted men, the pilots were different than the troopers.
Okay, you've got a belt. You've got gloves. That thing on your head is boots.
Well, being in the costumes themselves and having the strange makeup and hair really made me feel different. You feel like a different person. When you feel like a different person, it's easier to act like a different person.
Wow.
It also changes your movement. If you've got a
So
big thing on your
creating.
head, you have to walk straighter. You can't slouch like an American teenager. You have to stand straight like a queen so that it doesn't knock you over.
In the other films I've been involved with, it's always been a
Wow.
very simple wardrobe. This became a very complex, very designed wardrobe, very fashionable wardrobe.
I think people will be amazed by the costume. The images.
These are the celebration.
Beautiful. And I think
It
it's
looks like
something
a
we've never
beautiful.
seen or witnessed before in any previous Star Wars film.
I just think they're great costumes. You must be absolutely amazing.
You look good, you look fantastic.
It's good for like the effect of the film. As long as it doesn't like give me brain damage or anything, I'm all for it.
Alright. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Alright, next up is design. Yeah.
One of the
The design is to make some place.
Everything in the
Mm,
movie
place
has to be
sets.
designed. Everything from the forks and tables.
And there make
cups,
some sets.
to the dwellings they live in, to the culture itself. What kind of a culture is, what kind of artifacts do they have? And it's a very big job because every little minute detail has to be thought through.
The design task for episode 1 was literally like designing 5 or 6 or 7 films.
Yeah.
In that each world needed its own history and everything needed to be thought out. So like on Naboo, we have a very craftsman,
Yeah,
and
Naboo.
sort of elegant look. Whereas on Coruscant, we have a very angular and sort of concrete and metal look.
Yeah,
Everything
I
about
love
these worlds needs to be distinct.
Naboo and
That's
Coruscant.
the pattern between these different environments in the story, you know right away where you are visually, whether it's the texture of the material, the color of the material, or the look of the material.
This looks like a stone. This little crawl. Yeah, kind of tie into the ship.
One of our biggest challenges was to create a world that was very different, but yet still had very strong ties with the original Star Wars. And it was a very difficult problem in that we are exposed to so much in terms
You are
of
creating some
design.
characters for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
It's a very daunting task.
The original designers, like Doug, sort of have full freedom. to
They're
do
creating
whatever they want.
the sets for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Gavin even further to modify it to what is actually practical to do.
It starts off as one idea, just gradually by discussion or sketches
Alright,
or showing ideas,
1 minute remaining.
photographs or location photographs. Just gradually the process moves towards something that's much more defined.
So we can take this out, and then we can sort of
We'll use it for real.
dress this with art.
Yeah, you are creating some stuffs.
What the cinematic dynamics of a particular design are is very, very important. Is, you know, how does it move through the frame? How does it show up on the frame? You know, dark ships on a dark sky don't work too well.
We're weathering to see if this is the right amount, too much, not enough. We're doing a reaction to this.
The one thing that I would tell you is this.
Okay, don't know too dirty.
Yeah.
Okay. When we designed the Naboo Starfighter, that was a very specific case because I initially thought that the ships would be very angular,
Yeah.
like the X-Wing.
These are they're from The New Hope in 1977. Very first Star Wars movie in classics.
Automotive elements. And from there, we kind of started expanding further on that design, taking the idea of
Okay, we're done for right now. I'll see you in the next part.